All right, let's get Michael back onto the show. Michael, what's going on, bro?
Not much. How are you, 40?
I'm great. Good to see you, man.
So I am on board with the tariffs. I found a take, speaking of takes, on Twitter about this from a kind of random anonymous account, if I can read it to you.
Please.
The cancer of our non-productive consumer import society, fueled by credit, has eaten away at the lower middle and middle class to an unprecedented degree, and the imminent bankruptcy and perpetual debt of the government is the path to the third world. Common sense dictates that if you buy more than you produce, and when what you produce doesn't add to your security, you will eventually go bankrupt.
Okay, so how much confidence do you have that Trump is doing the right thing? Are you 100% confident?
I think you would just have to define the right thing. I think it's something that needs to be tried. Let's put it that way. And just based on the facts on the ground right now, I think it's the correct thing to do, even though, as you've been saying, it runs so counter to elite opinion. I mean, like what I just read, it's just kind of common sense that if you have a trade deficit, you need to address that. You can't just be in a trade deficit perpetually. So I think it's worth a try, and it needs to be tried for years as well. So it's like a long-term project.
It's absolutely intellectually fascinating, is it not, that close to 100% of the elite opinion on this is that Trump's policy is deranged, right? There is almost zero elite support for Trump's policies. It's so rare that expert consensus is pretty much close to 100% that Trump is wrong. I can't think of any other major move where the elite consensus was 100% that this major move is a disaster.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, you can say maybe they have some kind of conflict of interest, or, if you're in the mainstream media, then just hands down, everybody is against it. And then you'd have to look for more independent voices. Historically, Pat Buchanan has always been in favor of tariffs. And so Trump is advocating a lot of things that Buchanan wrote about decades ago. And even in 2012, when Trump was kind of toying with the idea of running, he was talking about tariffs. And I found that so interesting in 2012 that he had a completely different approach. And Romney is and was the polar opposite. He was Mr. Free Markets, even though he had some good ideas too. So it's very cool to see him finally implementing something that's been discussed just in theory, and something that to me just makes intuitive sense.
And Trump was advocating for tariffs as far back as the 1980s. I mean, he has been consistent about this as long as he's been making public pronouncements. This isn't some fly-by-night thing that he just recently converted to.
Yeah, exactly. He's been very consistent on it, and he's not going to change his mind. Look at China. In 2024, we had a $300 billion trade deficit, $295 million. With China. How is that acceptable? How could you not seek to address that? And so we slapped on a 34% tariff on China imports. And then China had the audacity to retaliate against us and put a 34% tariff on our imports. Can you believe China?
Well, I just read a fascinating analysis in the Wall Street Journal, and let me just share it with you. And one thing that does jump out to me about Donald Trump, and Jack Schaefer commented on it in 2016, but he used terminology about from Air Force pilots that there's a particular term for very quick reactions, and Jack Schaefer was commenting on Donald Trump is seizing our attention because he has quicker reactions than any other politician. That as soon as something happens, such as the San Bernardino terror attack, he just came out very quickly with, we need to pause Muslim immigration to this country till we figure out what the hell is going on. Like no other presidential candidate would have come up with that. No one else would have come up with that. It's just amazing that Trump would have these incredibly nimble approaches, and here Here's some analysis from the Wall Street Journal. Key reason for Beijing's defensive posture is that they don't want to be seen as over earnest. They don't want to engage too soon. They don't want to risk looking weak. And Trump's latest tariff moves exceed Beijing's estimates. And this is the key part. The Chinese political system isn't built to nimbly respond to a leader like Trump. I don't think it's just the Chinese political system. I'm not aware of any political system, including the American political system, built to nimbly respond to a leader like Trump. So the Wall Street Journal says Chinese leaders rely heavily on established ways to engage with the outside world, including through back-channeling with adversaries. But that sentence, let me just repeat it. The Chinese political system isn't built to nimbly respond to a leader like Trump. I can't think off the top of my head any political system in the world that is built to nimbly respond to a leader like Trump. I can't think of any leader like Trump in the nimbleness of his moves. The agility of this guy is astonishing. Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the same thing with how he deals with the Russia-Ukraine war. He just came in and did a complete 180. He never said anything bad about Putin after we've demonized him 4 years, and he completely changed the conversation. So that's a similar approach to how he approached the tariffs, which is he just kind of acted very swiftly and changed the entire conversation. In both cases, 100% of the media says he's wrong, he's uninformed, and here's why he's wrong. But they're both kind of populist issues. The Ukraine war just defies common sense of the common man. And likewise, the trade situation defies common sense, even though everyone tells us differently. I have a good scoop here that this is kind of funny. This is from CNN. Quote, CNN is quoting an ally to President Trump in their article. Quote, "It didn't help they tariffed islands with no people and no exports," one ally to the president said. So we put a tariff on an island with no people on it, but I'm still in favor of that.
Yeah, like Trump, this is what comes along with making very swift moves, is that you will say and do a lot of boneheaded things. So the most important question for me is not, are you saying and doing boneheaded things? The most important question for me is, overall, are the agile moves that you are making to the advantage of the American people? So yeah, Trump says and does a lot of ridiculous things, but that is the price that you pay for moving nimbly. For example, when you are giving a speech, you can be much more precise with your language if you read your speech, but a speech that is read is not as compelling to listen to as a spontaneous conversation. And what makes Trump so compelling a public speaker is not when he's reading a speech, but when he's riffing. But when you riff, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And when you are moving very quickly, and when you are open to changing course rapidly, you will inevitably say and do some boneheaded things. Any thoughts?
Yes, exactly. The approach has been the same to immigration, like he was deporting Trende Aragua, and he accidentally deported someone from MS-13. And so the media was very offended by that how could you make such a mistake as to deport an innocent MS-13 member? So now they have to clean that up. But
okay, back to this fascinating here, Wall Street Journal article. So apparently the current Chinese ambassador to Washington has tried to engage with Trump advisor Elon Musk. Right? Beijing hoped that Elon Musk would help counterbalance the China hardliners on Trump's team, and other American business leaders, such as Wall Street financiers that Chinese leaders had previously turned to in periods of trouble. They now see little upside in acting as a go-between for Beijing. Who wants that role, said a senior American executive? No one. So Beijing is absolutely thrown by the rapidity of Trump's actions. And here's further commentary from the Wall Street Journal. Beijing's inability to think beyond formal diplomatic protocol has proven to be a mismatch with the Trump team willing to engage only with those closest to Xi. And so to me, what's most important about this is not just what it's saying explicitly about China, but this is true about life in general. All right, protocols are great. All right, I'm glad that surgeons and airline pilots and all sorts of other industries operate on the basis of protocol. but there's no magic key to the world. And people who become overly reliant on protocol will get thrown by changes in situation. And so China, like I think every political system of which I'm aware, is heavily dependent on formal protocols. And now you've got a leader who moves at the speed of Trump. And China's just absolutely thrown. And you see this in daily life. People who depend on protocols and then they are thrown into a tumultuous situation that's just completely without precedent in their own personal life history, and they are just completely thrown. Any thoughts?
Yes, but to be a little balanced, I know that your opinion previously was that Trump is really shooting from the hip on the tariffs, and it was just kind of unnecessary and gratuitously shaking up the markets. I think that he helped himself a little bit by clarifying. He had that event and he made a chart and it showed the tariffs that other countries have on us and what we're going to respond with. And some people said the chart was wrong, but it was a chart that he made. And I think since then, I feel better about it. And a lot of people on X are like, "Oh, hey, boomer! Oh, you don't like that your stocks are going down?" And I don't sign on to that 100%. Like, if you have no care about the stock market at all, that kind of means like you're a loser, like you're a marginalized loser. So I don't want the stock market to tank, but if it can be temporary, I'm not like playing the stock market, but yeah, I have in theory, I have investments that need to materialize at some point in the indeterminate future. So hopefully we found a right balance of shooting from the hip and giving a little stability.
So one of my least popular perspectives is my extreme skepticism of betrayal. So I posit that betrayal is the hyperbolic emotional term that we use for when other people don't have the priorities that we expect. And we usually have too much expectation that we have greater importance to other people than we really do. And China, for example, was absolutely thrown here, that they were just unnerved, according to this Wall Street Journal article, that they expect that China would be a primary focus for Trump in his first 2 months, and that it was not, was just unnerving. And people in general are unnerved when they realize that they don't have as much importance to other people as they expected. So many employees have a vast overestimation of their own importance, and many spouses have a vast overestimation of their own importance to their spouse. And it's just a normal, natural part of the human condition to think that we're the center of the universe, but then it results in humiliation if you then carry on with other people as though you are much more important to them than you really are.
I don't know how China feels. I just think it's crazy that we output all our factories there. And I've always been of that opinion, even though, as you say, it's unorthodox. And we'll see how it plays out. How long do you think we need until we can say whether this worked or not? Because I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just had a different train of thought that I want to pursue a little bit more. So I like the metaphor of life as a spiral staircase, and that there are 4 different situations in life that we're always in one of them, and we are never foreclosed from the possibility of entering another one. So the 4 situations that we're always in life is 1, feeling lonely, right? Feeling small in a big world. That at any point that can hit us. And so I got quite teary a few weeks ago because I hit that space. Another situation in life that we inevitably enter into is a sense of mastery. We develop skills. Then as we develop our skills and we develop a sense of mastery, we inevitably enter a situation of grandiosity where we overestimate our own importance. And there's no way of foreclosing that. We will inevitably have grandiose situations in our life. And then the 4th situation that we'll be in inevitably at times is just complete helplessness. So how the heck does this apply? China, right? I think China thought it was much more of a master of its own situation than it really was. Oh, it reminds me of my own life. I've often felt grandiose, and then just one thing that was operating as a foundation for my life, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a job, a source of income, a belonging to a particular social group, one brick in my foundation will get taken away, and I would go from grandiosity to feeling small in a big world just overnight. And so often we think we've got it together, and then one little brick in our foundation gets taken away. And I think China believed it had much more mastery of its situation vis-a-vis the United States than it really did. Anything that I just said, Michael, that you want to comment on?
I say good. You know, I think if we're going to have a trade war with China, we can't lose that. We're in the whole 300 billion. So any way to shake up that relationship is a good thing.